Hey guys, what's going on? It's Joey Finrow. Hey, thanks for tuning in and watching my video. Today we're going to go through my first rental property and my first purchase in buying a rental property, so stay tuned. Welcome to my channel. Again, my name is Joey Finrow, the real estate guy. I tend to talk about all things real estate, investing, and personal finance. And in today's video, again, we're going to go through my first real estate investment property purchase and go through all the numbers, the pros and cons to this purchase, and also some tips that I wish I would have known before I purchased the property. So stay tuned. Let's go ahead and go through my first purchase. Okay, so this property, we bought a 2-bed, 2-bath, 900 square foot condo here in Orange County. Actually, my wife and I lived in this home for the first multiple years. For about 5 years, we lived in the home, and then it became a rental property because we moved out of that, bought another property, and then rented this property out. So let's go through the numbers here. Okay, so we bought the property for $235,000 back in 2013. That was a pretty good price back then. Looking back, at first I thought it was a super high price for the property, but as we go further through this video, you're going to see that that was a really good purchase price. So we bought it for $235,000. We put actually just under 10% down. Since it was our primary resident home, we were able to put less than 20 or 25% down because we actually lived in the home. So we put 10% down. Our total monthly payment, so I call this our break-even point, was $1,550 a month. So for 5 years, we paid $1,550 a month. It was just under that. I think it was like $1,535 for even number's sake, $1,550 per month. And now after we moved out of the property, rents went up. So the first year, we rented the property for $1,750. So we had about $200 of cash flow a month. That's not a whole lot of money. However, it was something, right? If we would have rented out day one when we purchased it 5 years before, we would have probably lose just a little bit of money, maybe 50 or 100 bucks. But rents have gone up. And we probably could have pushed rents a little bit higher than this, but I found a good tenant. The tenant is actually still in there today. And so year one, we charged $1,750 a month. So that not only paid for my holding costs, but it also put some money in my pocket at the end of the month, every single month. And then year two, we raised the rent $100 to $1,850. So we collected that all for year two. And then year three, we raised it to $1,950. Now we're almost to year four, and I'm gonna raise it again. But as you see, there's a key theme here. There's two things. Number one, this stayed the same. Okay, so my monthly expenses stayed the same, and my rent went up. Okay, I'm most likely going to raise this another $100 to $150. I think I can push that. So what is that, $2,050 to $2,100 a month? So two themes. This stayed the same, my monthly holding costs, keeping the home, and then rent is going up. So every single year, as long as the market continues to appreciate and rental prices go up, but here in Orange County, rent is always in a super high demand. And so I don't think that I'm going to have a problem. But even if I stayed at $1,950 for the next several years, I still have some cash flow. But the cash flow is only the one benefit of us, my wife and I, keeping this property. We're going to keep this thing forever. And when my kids and family take it over, I'm going to require them to keep it forever as well. Because we bought it at $235. Our holding costs are staying the same until our loan is paid off, but the rents still are going up. And I foresee them to continue to steadily go up year over year. And if this isn't if you're currently renting, right here, this should encourage you to stop renting because if you purchase, your payment is fixed. As long as you get a 30-year, or you could do a 15-year fixed loan, your payment stays the same. Now, occasionally taxes do go up, so it might slowly creep up because of property taxes, but as far as your 95% of your payment, it's going to stay the same, okay? While rents continue to go up. So rents are going up, and next year, I have about 6 more months until year 4 starts. I'm gonna raise it again. It's the same tenant. Him and his family have been a great tenant for my wife and I. And so this was our first purchase. Now on the flip side, today's market value of that property, we actually just had an appraisal done on the property, $360,000. So I probably could push a little bit more than that, but let's just call it, and that was an appraisal value. It appraised for $360,000. We bought it for $235,000. So not only am I getting cash flow, and it's going up every single year, I'm also getting, right now, appreciation. Now that's paper money, because appreciation doesn't really matter until I sell or refinance. But I still have equity on paper, right? So my equity is going up. But one of the most important things, not the most, but one of the most important thing is my tenant is paying off my loan. I'm not having to pay that off. So not only is my tenant paying off my loan for me, but they're also paying me a little bit of cash flow here, right? So they're paying me and then some on top of my loan. I get the tax benefits. Somebody else is paying off my loan for me. I get appreciation depending on the time. Sometimes appreciation goes up, it goes down. It's not 100% up, but over the last 7, 8, 9 years, it's been steadily up. But even if the value goes back down to $235,000, well, rents are still roughly staying the same, and somebody else is still paying off my debt. Now, this rental property has done really well for my wife and I. We're going to continue buying more and more properties that are in a very attractive area where people want to live, where rents are consistently going up. And it's somewhere for people that they want to live because it's convenient to either shopping, freeways where they work, and just and centralized to where people are going to, working, and also for entertainment. We're going to continue buying more properties like this. Now, one thing that I would encourage, if you haven't bought a rental property yet, start small. Again, I lived in this property first. I had some sweat equity. I lived in there. I let rents raise over time, and then I bought another one, and then lived in that one. And we're going to just continue to do that same process. Buy another one, rent out the previous one that we were in, and occasionally we will buy directly rental properties that we don't live in first. But the main benefit of why we're doing it this way is that we can put less than 20 to 25% down on a property as long as we live in it. So that's how I got away with putting 10% down here. That was only $23,000. Now, if I put 20% down, that would be much greater than that. So 10% is a lot more achievable than 20%. Now, I could have put 5 or even 3.5% down, but at that time, I just chose to put 10% down. Now, one of the last things that I would just keep in mind, and that what my wife and I are doing as we continue to acquire more and more rental properties, is that we are in a position, and you want to make sure that you're in a position to take some risk to where maybe 1 or 2 months out of every single year the tenant doesn't pay rent, or maybe it's late, or maybe that there is some maintenance that needs to be done every single year. So you want to make sure that when you are about to take a risk and invest, that you are in a position to where if something were to happen, if it didn't go perfectly, that you can roll with the punches a little bit. Now, again, I think a couple months of expenses for this property, like for this one, I think I would be completely comfortable if I put $4,000 to $6,000 aside in a separate account that's specialized to this specific property. That would cover a couple months of rent payments. And if, let's say, I've had to do a new kitchen because something broke, maybe there was a water leak and the insurance wouldn't cover the whole thing, I have a couple months of expenses set aside to cover something so I don't go belly up. So it's hard to go belly up when you have cash reserves. Now, rainy days don't happen every single day, but they do happen. Having cash reserves, a couple months or several months of expenses set aside is only just going to limit your risk and your liability. Now, what I would say is, if you're going to take a risk, take it on an investment versus a liability like a car, a vacation, something like that. I see a lot of people taking big risks and really over leveraging themselves in cars, but they're very scared to do that when it comes to real estate. I would highly encourage just to reevaluate that, and also just do your numbers right when you're running numbers before you buy a property, and have reserves set aside. You want to be in a position just in case if the market shifts or something bad happens, that you can at least cover that just that liability. And when a rainy day happens, you want it to be an inconvenience, not a emergency to where you're about to lose the house or anything like that. So this is our first rental property. It's done really well for us. We're just going to continue to do this. We actually even lowered our interest rate. We actually originally had a 4.2%, and now we have a 3.67% on this property. So now our debt is even cheaper, right? Because we just lowered the interest rate by, was that 0.75%. And we're going to keep this forever. My goal is to try to come to an agreement with my tenant to have him stay in the property as long as possible, because he's very low maintenance. In my next videos, I'll go through how I manage the property. I actually manage this myself, my wife and I do. And it's just been really well for us. And there's just a couple things, just tips and tricks that I've done to make this to where it's only maybe an hour a month at the most that I actually spend on this. It's probably like 20 minutes a month that I spend on this property. And there's a couple ways of how I was able to make that happen and how I set everything up. A lot has to do with setting the expectation of the tenant right from the start. So in future videos, I'll go ahead and go through that. But this is one we're going to continue going through more. And if you have any questions on this, on how do I start getting into buying a rental property, my goal with doing this is it's okay to start small. Like, I'm in Orange County, California. That's a super low price. Even right here, $360, that's a super low price in my area. But one of my main reasons of why I wanted to post this video and share this is to say it's okay to start small. You don't need $1 million before you start investing into real estate, especially if you're in a high market like I am in California. Start small and work your way up. It's okay. As long as you start somewhere and get in the game of investing into real estate, I feel like that's the biggest thing that has set me and my wife up for success, is that we at least started. We got in, and this wasn't pretty. We lived there for several years. It was not pretty. We are so thankful to be out of that location, but we're also very thankful that we bought the bullet. We bought this one, lived in there, had some sweat equity, and let the appreciation in the market do its work. And now I barely spend any time on this, and it continues to appreciate, right? Continues to go up. Can you imagine what this is going to do in 10, 20 years from now? This is the appreciation the property did over 7 years, right? And this is what the rent has done just over 3 years. It's gone up $300 in 3 years. Can you imagine what this would do in 15, 20 years? Can you imagine when this is paid off and what rent's going to be like in 23 years from now? I'm looking forward to that, which is why I want to continue buying more and more properties. So if you have any questions on this, write down below in the comment sections. I will reply to all the comments. I'd love to help you out and answer any questions, or just give any counsel that I have on your situation. But yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Again, my name is Joey Finrow, the real estate guy. Appreciate you. Like this video, and please subscribe to my channel. Thanks.